The idea behind Sage is you can ask a first draft question about anything that might be going on, whether that be like a medical concern that you want additional research done for you on, or maybe like a regulatory thing. Instead of you having to go to the computer and click 20 buttons and search a bunch of things, read a bunch of information, you can kick that question off to an intelligent assistant who will go gather up a bunch of resources for you, cite them, and pull it all together in one place.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of VetFolio Voice. I am thrilled to be joined once again by Ryan Gallagher and Dr. Katie Gallagher, the brother-sister duo who founded Scribenote. If you're not familiar with Scribenote, it's an AI note-taking software designed for veterinary practices. And if you've listened in the past, you may know I've been using Scribenote since the beginning, and it's been so cool to watch it grow and evolve over the years. I mean, to call it a note-taking software, note-taking scribe seems sort of overly reductive since now it can do so much more. This product is near and dear to my heart. It helped me out so tremendously when I was running my mobile practice as the sole employee and spending lots of time behind the wheel. It was really difficult to get to the computer and sit down and keep up with notes. So using this software, it was so much easier to dictate exam findings and follow-ups while I was driving. And then I could stay on top of my notes, both from a legal standpoint, but more importantly, so I could keep up with good patient care. I had a lot of long-running chronic cases that I would manage that needed thorough notes so I could remember where we left off the last time. Scribenote was hugely helpful in all of those cases. Well, I'm no longer running my mobile practice. We talk about that a little bit in this episode, but I'm still using Scribenote in practice on a daily basis. And in our conversation, we got into some of the factors that played into my decision to shut down my mobile practice and some of the challenges facing small business owners. Ryan and Katie both shared their insights on what it takes to run and to scale a small business successfully in terms that apply both in the tech world and in the world of running a veterinary practice. So even if you don't use Scribenote, you use another software, whatever it may be, there's something in this conversation for everyone. Let me go ahead and introduce my guests and we'll jump in. Dr. Katie Gallagher is a general practice veterinarian in Southern Ontario who graduated in 2016 from the Ontario Veterinary College. She's a co-founder of Scribenote and now works with the company and in clinic to improve the product and make it as useful as possible for her colleagues. She believes in a future where veterinarians have more joy because they can get home on time. Ryan Gallagher is a co-founder and the CEO of Scribenote. He graduated from the University of Waterloo's Nanotechnology Engineering program and transitioned to working on Scribenote full-time immediately after completing his studies. Originally launched as a passion project to help his veterinarian sister in December of 2019, Scribenote quickly became his primary focus. Ryan is deeply passionate about technology and its power to create a better world. These two are just the best. Let's go ahead and get into our episode.
Are you passionate about animals and love helping people? In the fast-paced world of veterinary medicine, exceptional client communication is just as important as quality pet care. As a customer service representative, you're the heartbeat of the practice, the first and last person clients see. You provide comfort, support, and trust in every interaction. This course is designed just for you. It's interactive and practical, featuring real-world in-clinic video scenarios, engaging knowledge checks, and printable resources to give you the tools, confidence, and strategies to handle any challenge and elevate the client experience. Register today for the Certified Veterinary Client Service Representative course on vetfolio.com.
Katie, Ryan, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. I think this is our third episode that we've recorded for VetFolio Voice, but we also had the chance to connect not too long ago with some of the media things that you guys are doing. And I'm so excited to talk to you both again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. We're really happy to be here. It's our pleasure.
Yes, I'm excited. And yeah, I kind of touched on a second ago, we got to collaborate on some of the social media and outreach and stuff that you guys are doing. And Katie, you were so kind as to invite me to come on What's Up Doc, and that was such a fun collaboration. Thank you for having me on that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much for joining me on that. It was really fun. I really never expected to be hosting a podcast, but getting to talk to people throughout the industry, like it's just been really nice and just like brings that connection aspect back to practice, right? Because it's really such a great community. Yeah, I learned some really cool things about you on that podcast, about your love for dairy cows and all your different avenues through vet meds. So if anybody wants to check it out, that's What's Up Doc, and you can find it on anywhere you listen to your podcasts, I'm pretty sure.
See, and this is where I say like saying you'd think I would know these things with doing what I do, but I was like, oh, we're recording on Zoom, and I honestly was like, I'm gonna just sit here and chat with you, and I have no idea where it's going. So it went out on your podcast channel, and we can find that it's called What's Up Doc, and we can find it anywhere where people normally get their podcasts.
Yeah, I think you can listen to it. We have a YouTube channel, so it's on there. And then Spotify,
Apple as well.
at least
Yeah.
those two. I'm just look it up. I'm not really sure either.
It was the YouTube thing that threw me. I think I knew about the
Yeah.
YouTube, and I still haven't connected like YouTube and podcasts yet because I'm,
Yeah.
as they say, an elder millennial. Oh gosh, it hurts my
Same,
heart
same.
every time. Like, how do all of these pieces fit together? I don't know. But if the other interviews you've done are anything like the talk you and I had, then absolutely everybody go check it out. It was so much fun to chat with you, and yeah, I think I learned some things about your practice as well. And yeah, there were a lot of areas where we connected, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the point of them was really to just like make it like kind of like an informal chat about what people are doing and just to remind them that there are so many avenues in this industry. So yeah, it's been really fun.
I think that's so important. This industry can wear you out in certain aspects if you're not paying attention to, where you are with things and, if you need a break and a change, really pursuing that. But it is nice because there are so many avenues for if clinical practice is taking a toll or something for making a change and exploring different avenues. So I love that you're having these chats and putting them out there so people can remember all the options that are out there. I feel like I still learn about different options of things people can do with veterinary degrees, whether they're DVMs or, certifications. We have like CVT, RVT, LVT, and then veterinary technician specialist and different degrees like that. I don't know if those translate across the border into Canada. Is it the same type of system for veterinary technicians?
Yeah, we definitely have RVT. I am not sure about LVT.
In the States, we it's different by state.
Yeah. So I think pretty much RVT here. Yeah, they've got a lot of different opportunities. There's a new certified wellness provider kind of continuing education that's added on as well. Yeah, lots of different avenues for them too.
Certified wellness, that's interesting. Like, because I'm thinking,
Hmm.
we have like a certified veterinary pain practitioner, and which I would assume probably translates, and then rehabilitation. Yeah, so yeah, there's all different types of additional degrees and certifications, even within, after you get some of the more, I don't know, well known, I don't know if that's the right word, degrees and certifications. So yeah, a lot that we can do. I love that you're making sure that people know about all those avenues.
Yeah. I think yeah, knowledge is power, right? Help you get out of a situation you don't want to be in, and yeah, like really the sky's the limit in this field. So it's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Ryan, I don't want to leave you out here. Katie, I want to stay focused on you here for just another minute. Let's talk about Scribenote. I know that with the numerous iterations it's gone through over the last few years and how it's become so much more adaptable, it is regularly saving my butt in practice. So I'm curious, what are you up to in practice these days? How are you using Scribenote?
Well, I mean, I think we'll get into this a little bit later, but I will be basically off practice for a little bit just because I am expecting a baby in January.
Yay.
Thank you. But when I am like in clinic, I basically use Scribenote for every appointment. Also, we have like a new feature called Scribephone, which records both sides of the phone call. So that's really helpful for client callbacks, going over those really like intense lab works and things like that. And so, yeah, I've really incorporated that into like my workflow as well. We have two other things. One that I don't use just because I have Cornerstone and it's server based, but that's called PIMS Pal. And so, like a really easy like Scribenote's kind of answer to getting notes from Scribenote into practice management software, and then Companion. So companions are our new like little helpers that are accessible. And we've got a history summarizer. So if you get a ton of new patients and you want to summarize your appointments, so like really long derm cases, you can interact with it, ask it really good, lots of questions instead of having to read 50 pages and maybe missing something, really high level stuff. And then like an editing companion, Quill. They're really cute also. By the way, the design on them is like adorable. Quill is like a little porcupine, and Summi is our history summarizer, is an elephant because obviously they know everything. So yeah, so both I've been using both of those, which has been really cool, just like another added benefit. And that's really like the point of everything that we do at Scribenote is to, make sure we're just continuing to add things that save time during the day.
Absolutely. And I want to talk to you more about that. Ryan, let me go over to you first real quick. Tell us kind of, about what it looks like behind the scenes as, you're developing these new features and how you're prioritizing what comes out first and kind of keeping that end goal in mind of getting everybody home on time.
I'd be very happy to. Just before getting into that, though, Katie mentioned how cute they are. I pulled the sticker sheet that Alina, our co-founder, designed, so you can see Summi right there, the elephant, and Quill. For folks online, if you want to see them, you can go to our website or use Scribenote. For us, what Scribenote has always been about was starting from the problem and working backwards to find like a really easy way to have technology help on that problem. And that sounds like the obvious thing that you're supposed to be doing in technology. Unfortunately, that is not always the way that things get built, right? Like a lot of times things get built because they sound cool or because there's a new technology that the way they talk about this in engineering is a solution in search of a problem. So you build a cool thing and then you try to pitch people on how to use it, but it never really started from that place of understanding. And so going back to like the very first, day that Scribenote came into be, I was like, I followed Katie into practice, December 27, 2019, and I was trying to figure out how to get her home on time because she was always late, an hour and a half, 2 hours, missing dinner consistently. And the idea for the AI scribe, well before AI was like common or popular or, in truth, even really possible to do these types of things. It was like, oh my God, Katie, you're spending all day duplicating your work. You're having these conversations and then you're talking about why is Fluffy here? What are we seeing is wrong with Fluffy? What do we think that is? And what are we going to do about it? That formed the basis of your medical record. And if we could only capture that information by recording and use some really smart technology, then maybe there's a way that we could get you home on time. And like for all the things that Katie just talked about that we've built since, like, Scribephone, the companions, Pim's Pal, we can talk about each one. They all start from the same care and respect for the problems in your profession. We see them as opportunities, and the way we see them is we follow Katie into practice. We still do this. We follow Katie into practice. We sit with her. We follow some of the, other doctors in our network around. We sit with them. We understand, we ask questions, we try to see what the actual pain is on a particular piece of the workflow. And then what we try to do is take our engineering team and our product teams through to an understanding of what that actually means so that we can deliver something really, really great. And then to answer your question on like what it takes to maybe get these things out behind the scenes, one of the things we've adopted is you sort of stray from this point as you build an organization. So like when it was just Alina and I and following Katie around, just three people in our parents' basements, it was like very easy to think like, okay, the obvious thing to do is follow Katie around, try to understand the problem, build something really scrappy, and then get Katie to use it. And like just repeat that loop and repeat that loop and repeat that loop. And then you start getting bigger and you try to like professionalize. And so you have these like, you have to build it right before anybody uses it. And I think those habits are actually not great. And we've kind of come back to center in a lot of ways. So honestly, the way we build a lot of these things is we build the scrappiest, dumbest version of it possible. We get it out to, you have two veterinarians on our team that practice that, are the first people that use these products. If if they can as part of their workflow, they do it there. If they can't as part of the workflow, because maybe it doesn't tie to their software, then they simulate it. We actually built a little clinic simulator at our office with like a fake exam room table and a fake, it's a real computer, but like a little fake desk set up outside of a meeting room. So we could practice these workflows to understand. And then so once we start to nail it there, then we start to expand the number of people who see it, and then we'll do a full release once we feel really confident in what this thing is, and then we'll market it and we'll get feedback to keep improving the thing. So, the things that work when you're really small, if you find a way to make them keep working as the team grows, we're at 31 people now, then it can create like a really magic, like always founding moment that we've really been enjoying recently at Scribenote.
I love that. And I love that you built a clinic simulator. Like that's so cool to take it and say, even if we can't simulate this exact scenario in a true clinic setting, we can get as close as possible to make sure that exactly what you said, we don't have a solution in search of a problem, that we're searching for the solution to a problem that actually exists and making sure that this product is meeting the need that we set out to meet, or maybe another need that we didn't know existed until we started to put it together. I'm curious, Ryan, I recently closed my mobile practice. It's business ownership is not for the faint of heart, and I loved it and I'm so glad I did it. But as I started to see that expansion come into view and what it was going to take to go forward, I just realized that my heart wasn't in it. As much as I loved my clients and my patients, I loved the medicine and everything it was going to take to expand that business and grow and make it into what I was envisioning. I just didn't have what it took, whether that was drive or heart or whatever it was to continue with that expansion. And I really wanted to switch my focus back onto the medicine more. So with that in mind, I'm one example who said, continuing down this path of business ownership wasn't for me, but there are a lot of very entrepreneurial minded veterinarians out there who do run their own businesses and they run their own practices. And after doing it on such a small scale for 5 years, I have so much respect for everybody in that role. I'm curious what you would say to people who maybe are in the position I was, where they say, okay, I've gotten it this far and it's time to expand. And they make the opposite choice of what I made, where I said, this isn't the direction I want to go. And they say, I do want to do this. I want to go forward and expand and make this into something that fits my vision. What would you say to people who are in that spot and they want to go forward without losing what made them special in the first place, what that initial vision was? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I'm certain that like anybody who's put themselves out there on the business front can relate to the concept of like managing the business is often much easier than managing one's own psychology about the business. And like maybe this is true in all things in life, that, doing hard things for sustained periods of time is like it's like a weird situation that we put ourselves in because you put your hand up for it a lot of the time, right? You're saying like you're waking up every day and say, okay, well, like I have in control of this thing. This thing kind of feels in control of me in a lot of ways. You have to reconcile the fact that like you are opting to do this extremely hard thing with the fact that this extremely hard thing is often trying to, get you to go in another direction. And sometimes that is exactly the right thing. I heard this like speech from Steve Jobs, his 2008 commencement address to the Stanford class. I think it's a beautiful thing to listen to, not just for anybody in entrepreneurship, but anybody who's trying to like shape their life maybe against a vision. And one of the things he says was he liked to look at himself in the mirror every day and ask himself, if this was my last day on Earth, would I want to be going and doing the things that I'm about to go do today? You can't use that in the extreme because it like in the literal sense, everybody would want to probably spend time with their family, right? But in the like, okay, this is a regular day. I don't know that this is going to be my last day. And I'm looking back on this. If it was, would I have wanted to do the thing I wanted to, that I actually went and done today, got done today? And I think that is like a very real thing that maybe one should use as their framework for making business decisions, certainly, and then I think a lot of life decisions. Like if you're showing up at the start of every day, it's like, yes, this is actually the thing I want to be doing. No matter how hard it is, you can like get there and you can make it to the next day. If that becomes not true for a long enough period of time, then his advice was you should probably make a change at that point. And I think that is like a really helpful framework for not just entrepreneurship, but maybe life in general.
Gosh, yeah, that really is a powerful message. And I think it really speaks to both sides of it to say, like you said, not using it in the extreme, but, can you get up and say, yes, I'm going to be happy I made the decision to go and do this today. And it speaks to the side of, yes, I am trying to create this business, this practice, whatever it is. I'm trying to bring this new technique into my existing practice because I want to, do this thing differently, which is, I'm trying to make a cultural shift. God knows how hard that is and things like that. But, was it something that felt worth doing and to be able to answer yes. And then it also I think speaks to the situation I described to say, I got up in the morning and probably looked in the mirror in a different sense and said, is this what I want to be doing today? And eventually came to the decision of, no, the medicine is what I want to be doing. And these other parts are not, I'm not getting excited about them. Therefore, I'm not doing as good a job on them as I want to be doing. And I have a choice here. And so I can make a different choice. I think, gosh, yeah, that's a really powerful message. Katie, you have also very much been on the business side of all of this. So I'm curious if you have anything you want to add to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, balancing practice and like, cutting back a little bit on how often. So, like, I went from full time in clinic. I was in clinic for, I think, 8.5 years full time. And then I switched to, part time in clinic, part time with Scribenote. And then just for the last year, I was doing 1 day a week in the clinic and 4 days a week for Scribenote. So it's still like a very full time job between the both of them, sometimes more like two full time jobs. As you know, 1 day in the clinic can feel like 7 days
Yeah.
sometimes. I would say, like, I think I definitely had to have a mindset shift. And like, I think we probably touched on this when we did the podcast together, but, basically, just because I'm not in clinic 100% of the time doesn't make me any less of a veterinarian, right? You're still doing things in the profession. And that kind of ties back to, what Ryan said, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to be doing exactly what you thought, but as long as it's like fulfilling your life. And I feel like the work life balance between the two, the practice and Scribenote, has been way better than just practice alone, just based on the clinic I am at is extremely busy and extremely like fast paced and, just the mental burden of some of that, right? Like, if you don't have joy in it anymore, then like may as well cut back a little bit and do something else to add joy back into it, right? So, going in once a week actually started to become like fun, right? Whereas like that's not really a thing that happens when you go in every day. So yeah, I've been lucky in that regard.
Gosh, I can relate to so much of that. The stepping back and having to remember that you still are a veterinarian, you're still contributing to the profession, even if it doesn't look like what you initially envisioned and you're not in a clinical setting all the time. I had a colleague call me last week and say, hey, would you mind switching surgery mornings with me? And I said, sure. And I didn't look at the schedule beforehand, other than like briefly to kind of know who my patients were. But I was like, this surgery schedule wasn't built for me. So who knows what I'm walking into, but it's going to be okay. And I called her. I was like, I have a bone to pick with you. I walked into a 70-pound and a 90-pound dog spay. I was like,
Oh no.
I love you so much. Thank you for giving me this surgery morning. I'm so excited. But for me, going in, and I'm doing a lot more clinical work now than I was probably before, but it's because I knew I could go in, I could do these surgeries, and then I could step back and take a breather after that. It was fine. I'm like, all right, we're gonna get in here, we're gonna do it. It's gonna suck, and then it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And actually, my 90-pounder had a litter not too long ago, and she actually wasn't that bad to spay. But the 70-pounder was, yeah, she gave me a run for my money, just like you would expect.
Yes, those dog spays. I feel like the routine part of it makes them seem so much less than they are, and they're just like literally like sometimes the absolute worst. Anyway, I work with some like incredible surgeons at the clinic that I'm at, and so the one doctor can do a dog spay in like under 20 minutes, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll never get there, but whatever.
Unbelievable. And I know I did one last a couple weeks ago. I was scrubbed into a surgery. I was not the lead surgeon, and we used a ligature, and I was like, this is ruining me for space, like from here on out. So there I was yesterday, like tying off with suture, and I'm like, oh, I want a ligature.
Yeah.
And so yes, when you do have some incredible surgeons, now not to get off topic here, but Yeah, they're the things that you see surgeons do with dog spay. Like we say routine, but man, is that a tough surgery. And I saw probably some of the fastest surgeons I ever have seen. I was in Mexico in January doing a spay neuter, and some of the veterinarians down there were, I mean, we were using fully injectable anesthesia, and so they had to be fast. And man, were they! They had these dogs on and off the table. Like, I mean, I'm talking from injection to like off the table, I want to say in like 20 minutes. It was wild.
Yes.
And yeah, so if you're one of those out there, amazing. I love that for
Yes.
you. I am with Katie. Like, I'll never get there.
Yeah, yeah. I stay in my lane.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, circling
Oh,
back to being able to have that variation where I very much felt that when I decided to spend more time at VetFolio, feeling like, am I still a real veterinarian if I'm not in the clinic every day as much as some of my colleagues are? And absolutely, you are. And if you need colleagues to tell you that, that's okay. I did. I had to reach out to people and say, am I still a veterinarian and have them reassure me that this is okay. And I think that if you are looking at going into the clinic every day, whatever role it is that you're playing, and you're saying, well, I'm not a real, you know, veterinary technician, whatever it may be, because I'm not in the clinic full time, I think it goes back to what Ryan said, like look in the mirror and say, are you going to be happy with the way you spent your day today? And if not, then check out What's Up Doc because there's so much discussion on all the various roles that you can play in veterinary medicine and still make a really meaningful contribution.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Also, ligashers from here on out because oh man.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Oh yeah. Um, anyway, getting back on track here, we kind of went off on a tangent, but that's always fun to do. Let's talk a little bit about some of the features that Scribenote has released. You touched on them a little bit, Katie, and just how they are designed to get people home on time. I know one for me has been the adaptive templates, which is several features have come out since then, but there's I've been working ER since I closed my practice, and there's a certain way I do my notes almost every time I know the sections I need to fill out, and so I've created my template to reflect that, and it's amazing. It's just so much just copy and paste. It saves me so much time.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, as soon as I mentioned those three, and then I realized I forgot adaptive templates because, like you said, like they were back in February that they came out. And I was a naysayer because I never really had any like structure to my note other than just like being okay with the Scribenote default templates, which work really well, right? Like you've got your paragraph or point form and your subjective, your objective assessment plan. So, like, you still are getting a ton of information in the SOAP that you don't have to write down on your own. But the templates we have like are so intelligent. Like I swear, smarter than me. Smarter than probably a lot of people. But like honestly, I found out the other day that like they can do math calculations. Like you basically can ask it to do anything that you'd like it to do in English, like plain English, and it will. So like, getting it to capture different parts of your history taking, telling it if you want, this section in less than 75 words, or, having it highlight anything abnormal by writing it in capitals, and all these different things, like writing it out like problem versus differential in your assessment, and then doing like if then statements. So like if we're giving vaccines, put this statement in, apparently healthy, stable on exam. So you can do all of this really cool stuff with them. It's unreal. Lots of people probably don't even have time to go around and like go in and play with the templates and the builder as much as they could, obviously. But it is like very, very robust. Like they're super impressive. They impress me. And that is basically what I use now for my general exam template. I've like created it so that it can basically be applied to anything, even like an illness exam, vaccines, etc. And then like a callback one so that if I'm on the phone, it's capturing exactly what I want, like results, discussion, plan. So yeah, you can really set them up to like enhance how fast your note review is. Like, so Scribenote defaults, I was probably down from like 15 minutes a record to like 2, and now I probably look at my record for 15 seconds. like if I don't have to add anything that I, should have added, you know what I mean? Like didn't talk to the client about or whatever. Yeah. So it is like insanely fast. So those are amazing if you haven't checked them out. And if you're confused at all, we have a ton of documentation like in our help docs and on our YouTube channel, some videos about how to kind of do that wording. But basically, what I like to just remind people is just like tell it in plain English. Like, don't make it too convoluted. Like, it will understand if you're like, distinct about what you're saying and where you're asking it to do it. And also, you can ask it to not do things that you don't like. So, really, really cool. So, yeah, one of my favorite features. I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to otherwise. The other ones, I don't know if Ryan, if you wanted to talk at all about Pim's Pal and the point of that. And yeah.
Sure. Maybe just like one quick thing on adaptive template, because it circles back to like the way we try to build things. Since we launched the Scribe publicly in May of 2023, one of the most common points of feedback we got was that people wanted to be able to customize the style, tone, format of their note. And we tried to build a adaptive template type feature 3 times that we just couldn't get behind. We just couldn't like feel proud of, Katie's going to be able to use this. Katie's going to be able to come onto a podcast and gush about it. Like people are going to want to tell their friends about it. And so we have no shame in building a thing and finding that it doesn't quite get to the mark in terms of what practitioners need to be able to like I mean, frankly, Katie talks about this all the time at Scribenote. It's like we think that people are thinking about our work all the time when they're in practice. I promise you, it is the last thing they're thinking about. They just want it to work, right? And so we really try to bake that into our product philosophy. And so it took a lot of work to get adaptive templates to the level of smartness that they're at. They're about to get even easier to make and share with your friends. We're building a adaptive template sharing library. So if
Oh,
at the
that's
Emerge
great.
facility that you're at, you've like really nailed a style of template that you love, and like people are like, oh, that's great, but I don't have time to like make it that myself. You can just like click a button to share it, and your whole team can have it, or you can have it outside of your team. And so we really tried hard with adaptive templates, and they're pretty special. Yeah. I think for other features like downstream of that, the way we think about our product lineup right now is sort of in 3 distinctive buckets. Number one, you have Scribe and like sort of Scribe adjacent features. Number two, you have the connection between the Scribe and your practice management system. And number three, where we're spending a lot of our R&D effort, probably half of our engineering team is working on this at any given point, even though we have like the least, there's like brand new features basically. They're, the least level of adoption or sort of like fit yet in terms of like how many people are using these yet compared to the Scribe, certainly, is the companion features. And the way we like to describe this strategy is like Scribe, then you have your like brain, which is the companion features. And between the Scribe and your brain, you have like the hands, which are the things that help you get your actions done really quickly, which are our PIM's like integration features. And so with the Scribe, basically there's sort of a core, well understood utility of the things we need to do to keep making the Scribe better and better. It's like faster notes, more accurate notes, easier to work with your team, easier to get on the product, like just sort of like obvious but hard things to do to make the experience really, really great. That's where Scribephone also fits in, right? So like if you doing callbacks before Scribephone, you'd have to like select the callback medical record type and then you'd play it on speakerphone. And like decent experience. But if you could just click a button on the app that you're already using and call your client from there, that's a much better experience. And so that's where we spend all our time on the Scribe, is trying to sort of refine the ease and utility of the experience. On the brain, so these are sort of like where we're trying to bake next level AI intelligence all throughout your workflow. And our vision for this is that like 3 years down the line, there is probably a very small number of things that you actually have to go to your computer to do manually yourself. And the thing that ties both of those visions together is the hands, the PIMS pal, the widget mode features that we have. What they do is they try to bring the knowledge that we have from Scribenote, whether that be the Scribe or like a companion, and put it right in the center of your workflow without you having to think about it. So right now this is on EasyVet and Covetrus Pulse, but if you download the Chrome extension and you click on any field that Scribenote knows about because you recorded. So let's say you had an appointment for Fluffy earlier today. You go to fill Fluffy's medical record. You don't even have to think about it. When you click it, Scribenote's there to present the information you need one click away. And that is kind of cool right now. It's sort of a little obvious, maybe, but where that's going to get really, really next level is on Companion. And so maybe I'll pause there for 1 minute, see if there's any like questions or maybe clarity gaps. But then maybe I can talk for just a few minutes on where we're trying to go with Companion versus where it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, Katie, if you have anything to add, what I'm hearing is, the initial vision was get Katie home on time, and then it became get veterinary professionals home on time. And now it sounds like it's almost evolving to a place of get everybody home on time and also reduce the amount of time that we're having to do maybe this redundant work of pulling our medical records in, even though they're already done. And I think that's hugely significant in a lot of fields, certainly in veterinary medicine, because while on the one hand, I have definitely become spoiled, and if I don't have something readily available, I'm like, what do you mean? I have to like come up with this out of my own brain. Like, can't the scribe just do it for me? But what I think it does when that focus becomes how do we reduce, say, the interaction with the computer in some of those cases is really frees our brain up to focus on our patients and think about other things that allow us to be better doctors because we only have so much bandwidth mentally that we can put forth in the clinic on a day-to-day basis, especially at say 5:30 p.m. And so if we can reduce the amount of time we're having to interact with the computer for, I think that was a great way to put it, then how much more bandwidth is that freeing up to say, hey, yeah, I'll do that nutritional calculation, I'll look that thing up for you, I have more time because I can talk to this specialist, because I don't have to say, okay, well, I have to talk to the specialist, but I also have to write the record, and then I have to write the record of what I talked to the specialist about. Then I have to talk to the client about what I talked to him about, and then I have to write that down too. If we can cut a lot of that out, then I think it frees our time up to do things that are maybe more important in that moment.
100%. That is a much better articulation of what we're trying to do than I just gave. So
It's only because I'm experiencing it firsthand. Because I can say, yeah, because I do have those moments where I'm like, is this a crutch? Am I losing my writing abilities and stuff like that? And I really don't think that's the case. I think it's taking a task off of my plate that really wasn't serving a whole lot of purpose. And actually, as a matter of fact, I think it's improved the workflow because with having those records already written, one, I don't forget about things that I talked to the client about because that happened a lot where, I'd briefly talk to a client about starting fish oil and then completely forget about it because the majority of the conversation centered on something else. So I don't forget those little things. And I think having it written and like reviewing the note to make sure it says what I want it to say, it makes my brain work in a different way where I can look at it and say, did I convey the things that I wanted to convey? Did I forget any pieces? Did I leave some areas unclear? And instead of writing the conversation from how it went from my perspective, it's almost like an objective view of how the conversation went, and I can see areas that I need to work on differently or clarify or add something in or subtract something. And it's just a completely different way of almost reviewing the appointment in my head to make sure we accomplished all the things we set out to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like I caught so many things like, looking at the record, like, oh, I forgot to send them home with that shampoo, or, I'll make a note, I'll do that next time, or like things like that, right? Where, or they say the diet and you're listening, but like sometimes it like goes in one ear and out the other, and you're like, oh, I have no idea what they said, or like how many times the dog, you know what I mean? Like those like little details that sometimes even if I weigh a cat, and I don't know if this is just me with my baby brain or it probably was me before too, but I'm just going to use that as an excuse. I put a cat on a scale and I say the number out loud, and then I immediately forget what I said. So I like have to go back and look at the weight, but thankfully Scribenote's got that for me. So it's nice.
Yes, no, I don't think that's baby brain or mom brain or anything like that. I think that is just, I mean, there's a lot of numbers involved in
Yeah.
our job, and it's easy to get them confused. And is this a 3 kid cat or a 5 kid cat? And yeah, no, I think that's very reasonable to not remember the weight of the cat off the top of your head.
Yeah, well, it happens all the time. So good. I'm glad.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I also have two kids, so maybe there is a mom brain component to it, but I'm going to say no, that's just normal because we deal with a lot of numbers. Well, Brian, let me hand it back to you to kind of talk about that vision for bringing it all together of where sort of the hands portion plays in.
I think the hands are only as interesting as the brain. And I will try to I get in trouble at HQ a lot because I speak in too many analogies. So I'll try to make that very
I
concrete.
love analogies personally.
Me too. Me too. So what we're trying to do with companion, what we like to refer to as the brain, is so much of this conversation that we've just had sort of actually reveals one of the critical opportunities that we have as a technology company. And as we've been talking, we've mostly been talking about scribe and directly scribe adjacent parts of the workflow, right? So in exam room, taking notes, after exam room, after the consultation, reviewing those notes and like kicking off some downstream actions. Like that has been Scribenote's bread and butter because we've been, historically just sort of centered around the scribing workflow. Earlier this year, like I think we talked about last podcast, we had expanded our team a lot and we're a company that is trying very hard to make sure that we can like keep bringing compelling new things to market. And so I asked Katie back in probably February, like if, scribe was a very useful first thing to do, but if like what's the next scribe in your workflow? Like what is the next thing that is just eating up 10 minutes a day? 10 minutes every appointment.
Oh,
And
explaining elevated ALP, no doubt about it.
okay, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, so there could just be like, it just need like a universal blurb of explaining elevated ALP to owners. The worst.
Okay,
I
okay.
agree.
Maybe we'll have a companion for that soon.
Love
So
that.
basically, like there are a couple opportunities. Like on the billing part of the workflow, there's maybe a 5 to 10 minute. Now, the thing is, the critical part of this is in order to find those downstream opportunities, you actually have to go past just the veterinary part of the workflow and you have to go into the whole team's workflow. And so then you start to see that, like, oh my God, billing is a 10-minute task every time. Well, we actually have a lot of this information, or at least we have information that could compress the amount of time in this billing process, whether that be generating the estimate or like actually getting that estimate into the PIMS for patient discharge. Now, the same is actually true upstream of the appointment. There is like everything from the moment of appointment scheduling to the moment of check-in, and each of these moments there's a lot of friction that remains hidden in the things that we do every day that just feel like part of life. And what we've been trying to figure out is the way to build software that can address many, many, many points of small bits of friction that the whole team has to share throughout the day. And that is the essence of Companion. Companion, more than like a set of assistants that can help you get parts of your job done, is it's a really clean, really clear, really simple interface that you can, no matter who you are on the care team, no matter what step you are doing in the process, you have a unified way of getting help on that 5 minute task. And so the first companion that we launched was Summi, the history summarizer. And so where this helps is before the appointment begins. You're about to go see a patient. You haven't seen this patient before. There's a 40-page record that you need to review. Are you going to read through it before the appointment? Like maybe if you're lucky, it's probably going to be a quick skim. If you just drop that PDF into one companion chat window and let Summi know that you need help on it, what she's going to do is she's going to summarize it for you and answer any questions you might have about that patient history. The second companion that we released, so by the way, we think that's really going to help on that sort of intake part of the workflow. The second companion that we released is still targeted primarily at like sort of the scribe adjacent thing, which is like even if you have the best adaptive template, as you guys talked about earlier, there's always going to be something that you didn't talk about in the exam room. There's always going to be something that was, in your head or you didn't find out until after because you can predict the future. You had to get the diagnostics, etc. And so there's all this writing that no matter what, you might be guaranteed to have to do. And so what you can do with Quill is you can just tell it to go make those edits. And you can do it in like one sentence. Hey, go add all this information, and it'll before your eyes, it'll correct the record in the browser very, very quickly. And so we have something that can help on the before appointment. We have something that can help on the after appointment. The next companion that we're going to release, we're slated to release it in November. We're calling Sage the research companion. It's this little turtle.
I saw the turtle when you held him up earlier. I was like, but who's the turtle?
Yeah, yeah. Sage. So he was slated for release in November, but he is a turtle after all, so it's probably going to be a little late. I've been working on that one. Um, what Sage is going to do is actually it's going to touch all throughout the workflow. And there's so many questions that us as engineers, when we come in and we watch in the clinic, that we see you have to go to Google for, you have to go to Vin for, you have to go to Plums for. And we think certainly there'll be a lot of these questions that you have to go to for go to those systems for a while. But Sage, the idea behind Sage is you can ask a first draft question about anything that might be going on, whether that be like a medical concern that you want additional research done for you on, or maybe like a regulatory thing. Like what are the new requirements? I have a patient that's about to go travel between countries. What are the vaccine requirements? I forget them. And so instead of you having to go to the computer and click 20 buttons and search a bunch of things, read a bunch of information, you can kick that question off to an intelligent assistant who will go gather up a bunch of resources for you, cite them, and pull it all together in one place. And so these are just the first three companions. We have more coming. But the key thing that I really, really want to drive home is that in the like traditional way of building software, if you had to bake in all these functionalities all over the software, it would be impossible to learn. And like, what have we been talking about all session long? It's that like people are not using our software to learn our software. People are using
They're
our
using it to
software to
get
get their
home on
job
time.
done.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the magic of Companion is that you get one chat interface that's right next to your Scribenote that you're already using, and Companion, just based on the questions, based on the part of the workflow that you're in, you can have one point of I go to this box, I ask my question, I ask it to do something for me, I ask for help, and a Scribenote is going to be able to help you in one clear place with all different parts of your workflow. And where we're focused on expanding this part of the brain is just everything from check-in all the way to discharge. And then where the magic comes in with the hands is being able to know that while you're navigating the PIMS. That since you had that information happen in Scribenote, Scribenote's aware of it, you're on your PIMS, you're about to click on a field, and it already presents you with the information that we had from the whole workflow. And so that's where the whole magic comes together. We're really excited about it. There's a lot more R&D to come, and we think that like the version of the future that we're really excited about, maybe 3 years down the line, is one that like from your phone conversationally, you can ask any question or give any task that can be done on a computer. And Companion, by the time you go to go to your computer to review it, Companion has done it. You don't even have to click the buttons.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, because there are multiple situations where you have to use multiple interfaces with technology to get the result you want. And yeah, back to that, as as we limit the number of interfaces we have to have and it just kind of happens automatically, man, how much time and mental bandwidth is that freeing up to be able to do other things. Listening to all of that, I mean, it's super exciting. I do feel like Quill blew my mind because I want Scribephone, I think was very timely because that was one of those where I was like, oh man, like having to record everything and go back. Although with my template, like there's almost nothing that I have to edit on those anymore. Just my phone calls go in. But then Quill was a big one because I was getting to this point where it would be almost perfect. I'm like, oh, I wish it could just add this in or reword it in this way. And the next thing I knew, I got this email that was like, Quill is released. I'm like, oh, they're reading my mind. This is amazing. But I feel like with this conversation, I would be a little bit remiss if I didn't wrap up by asking about AI and technology just in general. Certainly speaking, I guess. Well, I say in general, I guess more from the standpoint of within veterinary medicine. So, yeah, with AI, how are we shaping the future of veterinary medicine with AI? Which, Ryan, I think you spoke to that a lot, and it sounds super exciting. It makes a lot of sense. Are there concerns that you have, pitfalls to be aware of? I feel like this is just a big conversation in general right now. So, I'm certainly curious, both of your thoughts on how you see that impacting veterinary medicine.
Maybe I'll start with a few like common misconceptions that we see. And if I forget, Ryan can add any in. But I'd say like So first of all, like AI and all of that, it's all like really like buzzwordy, right? So like people say it and they have like no concept of what it means, right? So what we see like people expecting is that, every time they change something, the AI is going to, remember and change it for them. And that would be really great. And I think maybe eventually we'll get there. But like most of what we're doing is like we train the model in the back end to the best of our ability, and we add in like different resources and our veterinary dictionary and all these things to like make it as good as possible, but it's still not like person to person individualized, right? And that's the point of like adding in the templates and the additional advanced customization tools. But I think a lot of people have this like expectation versus reality kind of thing where, immediately as soon as you present a new technology to someone, they're like, well, that's great, but can it do this? And I think that that happens quite a lot. So yeah, so we see a lot of people kind of jumping ahead and like really like I think there's been a huge change in the industry. We didn't really have very much technology that we could count on before. Basically, we went from writing records by hand to typing them like the same, not really very much difference. And so now we've got all this different technology that people are baking into the whole workflow, which is going to be amazing. But just maybe remember like it's still really early, right? So like what we always say in like any product discussion is like the version that you see of Scribenote today is not the version that's going to be present in a year. Is going to be it's just the beginning, right? So just have an open mind and just remember that there are some like kind of like buzzword kind of myth. Like sometimes it just seems like you're dealing with, something that you is like way over your head, you don't really understand. And so then you have like a higher expectation of it. Anyway, so that's pretty much what I would say. And I'll let Ryan cover the rest.
Yeah, I think that like one of the things that causes that what Katie was just talking about is because there's a lot of capabilities that today's current AI systems, including our own, are just magic. Like they blow your mind the first time that you use it. And so and then sort of that biases you to think that the full thing is magic and it's going to be magic in every experience in every circumstance and can scale to anything that you possibly imagine. And the truth is that there's actually a lot of work that goes in the last mile of like taking today's current AI systems and making them really, really strong at a particular task. And because of that, there's a lot of work that, we as technologists have to do over, the coming not months, not weeks, like years of work ahead of us to round out the full magic of the experience. I don't think this is a negative thing because the counterpoint to that is like, though the technology is not perfect, it is getting people home on time. It is helping with mental load. And like perhaps there is the 5% of the record that you might need to correct, or the part of the workflow where it's not quite in yet. And though you really want it to be there, I promise you, us as technology companies, we want it to be there too. Perhaps it's like tempting to throw the baby away with the bathwater a little bit on a lot of technology. So like what we really, really, really try to focus on is deliver as much value as we can with the tools that are available today, and then push them as far as we possibly can to do a little bit better than what's available today. But it is still 2025, and we won't see like perfect AI systems behaving perfectly in all situations, no matter what company is releasing them. The biggest companies on the planet, down to small startups trying really hard to make software great for veterinarians. There's a lot of room for, making these things smarter, making them more reliable, making them learn truly. So it is sort of just day one in a lot of ways, despite how it feels like it has been, infinity levels of improvement since we started working on this in 2019, and it wasn't even possible to get an AI to do anything reliably, in the dumbest of senses. So to like summarize that it is a wildly optimistic technology that is not yet perfect, but that doesn't mean it can't be useful. And it is worth trying to see, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, uh, it is worth trying to see where you can take advantage of that utility.
Yeah, that makes sense to say even if it can't do anything and everything you ever dreamed it could do, that doesn't mean that it's not worth something. And I think that line of thinking can probably be applied in a lot of different scenarios in life. And I think what I'm hearing both of you say is, particularly when it comes to Scribenote, the goal is to get people home on time, and the technology is helping with that. So it's doing what it's supposed to do in terms of accomplishing that goal, and slowly working on improvements to continue to streamline the workflow, continue to reduce that mental load throughout the day on the entire team, but also releasing these improvements in a controlled way to where even if it can't do anything and everything under the sun, it can do what you said it was going to do. And reliably, you say, I'm going to give you this tool and it is going to do this thing. And know reliably, it will do the thing I told you it was going to do.
Absolutely. That is the sweet spot we try to be in.
Well, guys, it's always so much fun to talk to both of you. I always love catching up. We were talking about, I feel like Scribenote had just kind of first implemented like auto soap. When one of the first times we talked, and it was this huge like, oh my gosh, can you believe that we can hit record and it can populate this auto soap, and so just to see where it's gone in the last 6 years, I'm really excited to see where it goes in the future. Everybody knows I'm biased. I love Scribenote. I've used it since it came out, and I still use it all the time. So thank you to both of you for coming back on the podcast, sharing updates, having this conversation. Like I said, it's always great. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, check it out, and hopefully it will help your day just be a little bit easier.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cassie. It's really awesome to have you continue to be such a fan. Like, this is the greatest pleasure, I think, of any technology builder. Is something that's cool at a moment is great, but if you can keep something cool for someone for a long period of time, like, what a privilege that is. So we're delighted to hear that, and we hope we can keep living up to those standards.
So far, so good. And I mean, at least from my perspective, it's very reflective of the effort that you make to really make the features as you release them very applicable, very useful immediately within the clinical setting. And yeah, like I said, I love it, and I'll continue to use it. It's still super cool in my mind. So that's my elder millennial coming out. It's super cool.
Thank you so much for having us.
Ryan, Katie, it is always a pleasure to get to connect again. Thank you so much for finding the time to come back on the podcast. I know with how much Scribenote has grown, it can be harder to find the time for all of us than it used to be. It was just so great to be able to reconnect with both of you. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast to help other veterinary professionals like you find this and other great content we try to put out there. For more episodes, you can click on the Education tab on the VetFolio website or find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I want to hear your ideas on this episode as well as topics you'd like to hear from us in the future. So please reach out to me at dvm@vetfolio.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Dr. Cassie DVM, and also on LinkedIn at Dr. Cassie DVM. And remember, if one animal is better off because of you today, it's a great day.